strange. They live a life of hedonistic plenty. They drink, laugh, make love in the sand, swim and play, oblivious to the fact that their cities lie in ruin, annihilated by their own great wars, laid waste by their own hands. They are ignorant of their destruction. They feel no remorse. They have no worries. They simply enjoy their lives of bliss, never needing, never wanting for anything. They had such abundance simply because there were so few of them left. Small pockets of population had concentrated in areas that were not affected by the Great Wars, on islands in the South Pacific, off the old trade route, and away from where the wind blew. Also in the desert, which even before the wars sheltered men from the effects of the bustling city. The desert dwellers are a harder breed than the hedonists of the South Seas. They live the way people in the desert had always lived, by taking their houses with them. They have developed a limited technology, and they needed oil to fuel their vehicles. They would probably fight back if we threatened their oil. What was it about living in the desert that made one crazy for oil? We weren't here for oil, though. We needed the basic elements. Crystals for our generators, minerals for our replicators, water, oxygen, and meat. It's their own fault. All the big game was killed off in the wars. We would gladly fill our holds with elk, bear, or even cow if there were any left. The only decent meat on the planet is man. They fulfill our dietary needs, and they are incredibly easy to catch. Especially the drunken, lazy ones.
Strange. They've been flying around watching over us for 2 years. They haven't started attacking until just recently. They must have run out of them pussies in the South Seas. But this isn't some hippie commune. This is Texas. People raised on armadillo pie and chili peppers ain't afraid of spaceships. We'll run them off sooner or later. After all, this ain't the first time we've been invaded by aliens. I ain't talking about Mexicans, you miserable bigot. I'm talking about the other spacemen that have tried messing with Texas. First, they was the Greys, the ones that had always been watching us. Well, they must have been pretty close by when we blew ourselves to bits. They were here within the first few years. We run them off. soon as we found out all you had to do to kill them was more or less sneeze on them. Then the quahoggins 10 years later. Nasty ant beings. Well, it turns out there was so much pesticide still laying around that those bastards didn't last long either. Leuzugliites came next. Turns out, when you blast 4,762 thermonuclear bombs off in the course of a day and a half, you call some attention to yourself. They was a lizard race, but they didn't find us quite palatable enough, especially the Mexicans. Something about the jalapenos. They left 20 years ago after causing their share of trouble. It's been pretty quiet since then. Now these, the Sleeve, well, we'll run them off. Hell, a fella up in Arizona's already figured out how to kill them. See, their skin is all pink and soft, but it must be denser than hell, because it'll bounce a bullet right back at you. But there's a couple of slits right in the middle of their heads. Nostrils to them, but they as good as exhaust ports on the Death Star to us. If you can get in close with a knife, you can stick it all the way into their filthy alien brains. I'm sure there's other ways to get them. We probably ought to study them. But the bodies never last that long. We burn them. Texans hold a grudge, I tell you what. See, they ain't exactly armadillo pie. But if you put enough hot sauce on them, well, they taste just fine.